The proud new flag of a free Bahamas will join the others of a select group, the family of independent nations. As Prime Minister, I am bringing you this story on film in order to show why full nationhood in 1973 is not only feasible, but necessary. To help prepare our Commonwealth for independence in 1973, the Bahamas government has launched a massive exercise in education and information in every corner of our far-flung islands.
Welcome to this special edition of Legends as we observe and celebrate the 52nd anniversary of independence of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. We have three upstanding Bahamians who will share their reflections on what it means to be Bahamian, that moment in independence, and where we go in the future. My first guest, Bishop Simeon Hall. Good to see you.
Thank God to be here.
Let me take you back to July 9th and 10th, let's say, of 1973. I know you were on Clifford Park. What stands out in your memory most?
I had just completed my training at American Baptist, and I came home in March, and independence was July. So I was right in the throes of all that was happening. The lowering of the Union Jack, the raising of our flag, all was mentally, I had realized what God had done in my life and allowed me in this country. It was for me to be there. I realized that I'd gotten some training and began preaching all over the place, and I believe where we were born was God ordained. I believe I've traveled the world, all the continents of the world. I preach there, but I am privileged because I trust God, because this is where He put me. And I thank God for that. I'm glad to be a Bahamian. God made this land for me. And so for me to have been there that night was indeed transformative. Mentally, I thought about all that my mother, Nola, the Bay Crab woman, had gone through and how she had risen to some social standing, and I felt it. I internalized independence that we had under the leadership of Sir Lyndon Billing, who did a lot of good for the country, and I wish he had benefited more from it, but he didn't. But no, for me, that night was transformative.
Was it emotional for you?
A little bit emotional because of the raising of the Union Jack, and I was about 25 or thereabout, and I'd been off to college, and I'd made a name for myself, and I knew that the Bahamas had all tied this all together. For me, the Bahamian from Chokne Gully, to be a college graduate now with some distinction in the preaching field. And so, no, thank God for where I was born. I am glad to have been born in this place, and I've been able to stretch my ministry and touch the whole world. Yes, I think we should rejoice in this particular thing, that we were born Bahamian. God made this land for me.
Now, there are some people who appear not to appreciate what independence means, saying that really we're still enslaved, blah, 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 blah. What would you say to them?
That one thing, appreciate your theology should shape your sociology. If you have a connection with God, you should have a connection with your brother or your sister. That's all. Bahamian, the Chinese, the Haitian, whatever it is, they're human beings. And once you're a human being, I'm your brother, you're my sister. And so no, people who, and a lot of people who don't know their history will fall into that trap that, oh, I don't like this and that. No, but I knew my history. I worked I dropped out of Old Western at grade 5. I was flunking. I know what failure feels like. But my Christian conversion put me back. I went to night classes at Aquinas College. Now I'm a college graduate, has studied at 4 different universities. We should appreciate that whatever the problems we have, the solution is tied into the problem. And the solution, some of the solution is on me as a Bahamian. I must make my contribution for the problems, but I appreciate what we are, what Sir Lyndon did, Loftus Roker,
the founding fathers.
The founding fathers all made a personal sacrifice for me to be here today as the noted preacher that I've become.
It was all intentional and well crafted, the way they went through the process to get to it. Eh?
But all of them had a sense of theology. It is their God connection that motivated them to help people. We have some politicians today who won't help people for selfish reasons. And those men, all of them, had a fear of God that was manifested in how they touch Bahamians. I'm glad about that.
And they were all outstanding, educated or even with lesser education, but they had, like you said, a deep commitment to country and intelligence and common sense.
The University of Florida, a professor asked us to define intelligence, and we all talked about it and came up, and he said, I'll never forget it, intelligence is a predisposition to explore alternatives. We need some leaders in our churches and our country who know how to explore alternatives. You have a problem, and they pay you, and they give you $150,000 for your per constituency, and you can't do something in that constituency. The people should put pressure on you and don't vote for you. But Sir Lyndon stayed there, 25 years? Because people had confidence in him. He is the Moses of our country. You can't take it away from his fallacies. Some of the things I pointed out that he did wrong does not equate with the good he has done. I want people to measure me by the contributions I've made rather than the failures I've made. Because if you analyze my life, you'll see some failures. But if you look closely, you will see all the successes that are. That's what makes me proud to be a Bahamian.
I know that we are a small country, and when you have challenges like you see all around the world in this country, it feels greater because we know the people, and we're a smaller nation. But when you look at first world countries, including our neighbor to the north, and what they've been through and are going through, and I mean, do you think it's fair, the kind of pressure we put on ourselves?
No, and that's good that we demand more of ourselves than we perform. Mm-hmm. I am my biggest critic. I don't wait for your criticism. I got a wife who will criticize me and tell me something. You need that. So criticism is healthy. Yeah. So I'm glad that as a Bahamian population, we demand more of ourselves than America does. I spent 5 years in America, I'm saying we do well. We should give ourselves a pat on the back at 52 years, and we've achieved this with no bloodshed. We've achieved this. We have made our contribution to the Caribbean and the world without bloodshed.
Well, our elections tend to be very peaceful.
One fellow threw one bottle and hit one fellow in the head, and they stitch him up. No, we are, and that passivity sometimes works against us. Passivity is not always a virtue. Sometimes you need to stand up and strong. But thank God, we have advanced. I read a piece of statistics the other day that said not one Bahamian, or it said 97% of the Bahamians now do not live where they were born. That sounds to me like progress. Well, we've made ourselves.
Migration, internal or external,
external.
Is
we're
important.
Moving. We're progressing. Now, we must demand more of those who are in leadership in our churches and in the country, wherever, in Parliament. Demand more of them. Respectfully, demand more of them. And I think we could progress. But I am happy. I'm proud. I would never forget the sermon I preached in 1979 with the Progressive Liberal Party at St. John's Church. Much land remains to be possessed. I'm preaching that same sermon at one of our churches this Sunday. We still got some more things to do, but we've done quite a bit. And we've conquered the Hittites, we conquered the Jebusites, but God says, you still got some more to do. That more that we have to do is what calls us to the forefront to be a good citizen. And that's what he did.
Talk specifically about some of the more that we have to do and what we need to do. The sacrifice has to be made at all stages,
of course.
And what we need to do to get
I
there.
think specifically some of the social problems like crime, like immigration, should be faced head on. I wrote a letter to the Attorney General and the Minister of National Security. If a person is found guilty of raping a 90-year-old woman, but he's out on bail, something is wrong with that. We shouldn't play with it. We should face the reality. We don't do hanging anymore. I don't support hanging. But I'm saying some person seem to be oblivious to what the law says. They're not fearful of going to jail. They're not fearful of anything. But some men, we must realize, do not belong among civil society. For a man to rape his son and be out on bail, and he might rape his daughter, he should not be among civilized society. That's how I feel. Those are some of the more. The law, the lawyers, the whoever in the members of parliament should be more proactive in addressing the social problem. How could you let a man out on bail, pay him, he pays $5,000, and he goes to rape somebody else? Rape is rape. And so I'm saying, let's face these problems head on. A fella down in, a leader of a country down in the Caribbean said, the Bahamas is slow. You don't know what they're eating because they will not face these egregious problems.
Ralph Gonzalez from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, you're correct. But tell me something now. How can you explain to the people how the Bible is still relevant? You're one of two pastors on this show today. Still relevant to the social ills we're seeing today, and how do we apply them directly?
The Bible calls for us to rise above the dust level. God made man from dust. Too many of our men stay at the dust level, where you only want sex, and you get it anyway. That's the dust level. But God blew into him his spirit. It is that God breathed into us that calls us to be above the dust level. We cannot live. I don't care what denomination, what your Christian teaching is, what your religious thing gives you. Man is called to be above the dust level. And if we live at the dust level, we're just like the animals. But if that breath God put in us calls us to have some form of religion. I teach a class for the last 9 years. I've had 478 persons from 7 different denominations come to my class, preaching and evangelism. And the whole thing is, how can we get you? Me, and I know it. I know what it is to live at the dust level. But I have a sense of calling that God put some little bit in me, of Him in me, and that calls me to be what I try to be as a Christian. And so, no, man needs God. If there were not a God, we would have to invent one. Because man needs something outside of himself. That's your religiosity. Now, we must take that religion beyond. For us as believers, we must make it more practical. And that's some of the more we need in our country to possess. We need people who will go beyond religion into relationship and live this life, live the abundant life. I thank God that I started when I started as a Christian, I was 16 years old, and I was on the lower side of zero. Few of you know where that is. The southern side of zero. A 5th grade dropout, no education, and working as a carpenter helper. But the spirit God gave me became motivated by a Roman Catholic nun at Aquinas College, who told me that the circumstances of my birth could not determine my destiny. She told me that I could learn. One teacher at Old Western stood me up in the class and said that I was incorrigible. Took me about 3 years to figure out. She was saying, not only were you dumb, you cannot learn. But that second teacher told me that I could learn, and I went everywhere.
But then again, though, your heart, mind, and spirit had to be open to receive that.
Of course. My mother told me that, boy, you got to make yourself someone. And that teacher at Aquinas College, and you remember when they used to wear them cassock and all them? She looked angelic to me. You need to be an angel in someone's life.
That's true.
She set me free. I'll always remember.
Let me ask you this in our final minutes with you. What do you want to see, other than what we discussed, for the future of the Bahamas?
For people to be more, to let go their spirit mentally and in terms of socially. If you love God, you should love the Haitian, the Jamaican, the anybody. Don't forget, people like us.
If I can stop you there just to say, that does not mean support illegality.
Of course.
Right?
Of course not.
Right.
Of course. Lock them up. Do a Trump on these people. But at the same time, as a Christian, you have a way you must find creative way. I love our Bahamas. We have done well. I commend you. I'm saying let's do weller.
Amen.
Okay, let's do weller in terms of how we treat one another, how we define one another. Jesus met a woman caught in the very act of adultery, but he did not let her wrong define who she was. We must find that this is Abraham's daughter. This is a child of God. This is a potential that we could reach. And so my thing has been, I thank God for people like Sir Lyndon, Arthur Hanna, and all of them. But my mother, Nola Musgrove, the Bay Crab woman, she was my heart. She inspired me, and she paid for me, and she sold banana for me to go to school.
And I remember those Bay Crabs when I was a child.
They're still good.
Thank you so much for being with us on this special edition of Legends. We're going to take a break, and we'll be back with another guest.
And thank you. God bless you, Bahamas.
One firm decision the government has made is to remain a member of the Commonwealth of Nations, although completely self-governing. Her Majesty will become Queen of an independent Bahamas, and a Bahamian Governor General representing the Queen will be appointed by the Bahamas government.
Welcome back. It's a very special moment to have this next guest on with me, and I'll tell you why very quickly. When I was a child, I had rheumatic fever, which my parents were afraid that I might not have made it, but thanks to Dr. Yvonne Skeffrey and others, but it required me getting an injection of penicillin every month. And there was only one person that I would allow to do that for me, and that was Nurse Beverly LaRoda, now retired Nurse Bloroda. Welcome to Legends. Good to see you.
And it's good to be seen and not viewed.
Amen. So let me take you back to independence, the lead up to independence and that night. What was that? Where were you and what was that like for you?
Independence, I was on Cable Beach, below the Clifford Park, trying to get onto Clifford Park.
Wow.
But the traffic was so built up, we couldn't. And so
You moved too late, you started too late, eh?
No, I came from the east, came from the east, then from the west, north, trying to get through with all the traffic. But then I came through Chippingham onto Cable Beach, and there I am stuck in this, and these people will not move out my way. So, you know, we love to blow horn. And so what I did, I parked my car on the side of the road and I ran up the hill.
Wow.
And when I got up the hill, just before the flag, one flag was coming down as the Bahamian flag went up.
Oh, okay.
And I started to cry. I said, because, you know, as a child at my age, that year I've been 30. And here it is. I remember singing Rule Britannia. So there's no more.
And celebrating Empire Day and all that.
Empire Day, yes, man. We got Empire Day. You got powdered milk and a cookie. That's what they gave us on Empire Day.
Like they're doing something for you.
My parents never allowed us to go on the park for Empire Day, so we had to at school. That is what we got. I went to Smith Private School. It was a brethren school. A lot of the senior, like Eddie Hanna and Dr. Gay and all those, we went to the same school. And so they gave it, all the schools got that, children got that. But that year of 73 with independence, I became independent because I got a home. I was living in Kemp Road, and in Kemp Road, I never locked my door. But here it is now, I move into Golden Gates, where it was a subdivision. They said it was detailed for nurses, teachers, doctors, and whatever. Mm-hmm. And so, as nurses, and I was also married to a nurse, and we lived there. The first Christmas we did, I would like nursing. Well, you said nursing. We did Christmas time. We did caroling. We went from the hospital. We had a hospital in. A lot of people don't know we had such a hospital at Prospect Ridge.
Right. Yeah.
And we went down there. That was where most of the ones with for tuberculosis, they were down there. And so we went caroling. And when I got back home, my neighbor, God bless her soul, she's now expired, Effie Walks, she lived on the corner. And she said, y'all ain't know what happened. I said, what happened? She said, well, somebody was trying to break into your house. I said, here it is. I lived in Kemp Road and never broke in my house. Moving this Golden Gates, and my first Christmas, going to break into my house.
Sign of the changing times.
Mm-hmm. And the guy, she said he had a crowbar. He said, oh, ain't nobody home, eh? She said, but since when she's go to people's house with crowbar? You know, that is what happened. And that was, you know, this was going on now compared to then. We used to say Karok and Kabottle.
Right, I remember.
But now it's guns. It's guns. So we've come from Karok and Kabottle, not having to lock up our house in Kemp Road, but now having to have all sorts of bars and stuff. So you're a prisoner. And I say, you know, we don't lock up from the burglars. We lock up from the honest people. Because the burglar's going to get it.
If he wants to.
He wants to get it. He's going to find some way how to get in. But now to my nursing, you know, I was a teacher. Actually, I was a monitress at age 13, 14.
Okay.
And then...
and actually, maybe you should, for some of our younger people, explain to them what a monitor is, because I know they don't know.
A monitress is, you're not a teacher. You're more like what they call them now, classroom assistant, where you're teaching. Even though you're not a teacher, you're not a certified teacher, you don't have any papers to say you are a teacher, but you can teach. I've got doctors, lawyers, Indian chiefs out there. I remember I taught at an all-age school where you had from the little ones straight up to grade 3. The grade 3 in those days are not what they have now. Our grade 3s, they have now BGCSE, we had GCEs and Cambridge. I never reached to Cambridge because I came out of school in 1957 because I had to look after the younger ones and my mother worked. But at 19, I went into nursing. I always wanted to be a nurse. And
you have the right
the year
temperament
before,
for it, too.
yes, the year before the class, I didn't get in because they had a stigma on nurses in those days.
Really? What was
They
the
had a stigma that, that good people who from the upper class don't go to school, don't go to do nursing, you did something else. And I said, gee. So I left teaching and I went into nursing. And those days, our classroom was where the morgue is now, underneath, down in there. It was down there. And then we moved over to where the former superintendent used to live. The classroom was what we call it Dean's home. And then we moved to Baines home. And then you would go on to bachelor's. But the nurses in our day, I'm not knocking, but in our day, we did it because we loved it. You know, in teaching.
And this is as independence was coming on.
Yes.
And didn't you feel like, didn't you have that feeling that the world was yours, that you could do whatever you wanted to do?
Listen, as a teacher, I made 4 shillings a week. Then it went to 10 shillings. Then it went to £1. And that's, that's not even $10.
And you made that work.
And it worked. In private nursing, when I resigned from Princess Margaret and went over to Bahamas Medical Center, that's where you came in.
Right.
Bahamas Medical Center, I started off at $68 a week.
Wow.
Bought property, built a house.
Whoa. Exceptional.
You see? And then we went Renaissance, when they talking about the cells, we were doing that from 71 here in the Bahamas.
Wow.
We did cells. So I moved on to that, and that's where I made money, where I was in charge, where I did the scheduling. So if I did 4 nights a month, I didn't have to touch my salary.
Wow.
So we made it work. Both of my husband was still in the government, but I was in the private sector. But how I watch nursing now, I used to sit on my hair when I went into nursing, and they wanted to cut it because you could not wear your hair out. So I had to pile my hair up under my cap. Nowadays, I see these nurses with these long fingernails, their hair way down on their back.
Who they can help?
And, and they're standing over you and their hair down on your face. But they don't know. That is where we had the English nursing teachers. We had the English nursing
and
teachers.
talk about bedside manner, because that's the most critical.
Oh, wow. The bedside manner, and it's not only in the Bahamas, because I've been a patient in the U.S. And the bedside, actually, I fired a nurse at one point because of her bedside manner abroad. Where you supposed to, people say, foreign is this. No. Our nurses, those days, they loved it. Our auxiliaries, we taught them, and they learned. We had to depend on them. We call them assistant nurses, but the auxiliaries. We taught them things that we did, because especially on night duty, you needed them to help you in accident, emergency. We never allowed them to do the injections, but they were allowed to do dressings and stuff like that.
And I took a lot of burden away from you.
Yes. Yeah. So we worked together. Sometime, and I remember a nurse saying, one of the sisters saying, give me LaRhoda and Miss Evans and keep the rest of your staff. But that meant that they would kill us out. Because the other ones now, these younger ones coming in now, they got their GCEs and a particular nursing officer was to say, you got your BTL. You know what BTL was?
Been to London.
Been to London. You've been to London, but she had the DEA key.
Now, there was no nurses union when in those early years.
No nursing union. That I've never been a member of a union.
I see they're having a little bit of problems with the nurses union now.
Oh, yes. Because and what I noticed also, some of those who came in behind us, they did the nursing and then they went into another field because they knew they can always fall back on nursing. So it's like, hey, I want to make the money over there, but I can always come back and do it.
But this whole idea of having options.
Yes.
And having people used to tell me, and my mother used to tell me there were times when you could have had 2, 3 jobs if you wanted.
Of course.
You had to worry.
You didn't know. And then some of them would work the night duty and then they go to the U.S. and work. Wow. Now, when I worked at Bahamas Medical Center, I'm not just the regular nurse. At Bahamas Medical Center, I knew how to do x-rays. I knew how to do diathermy. Diathermy was a machine they put over you with electric waves. I did ultrasound, and I took blood. This is what we did those kind of days. But now it's a specialty. You're not allowed to do certain things if you're not trained in this and trained in the other. But the bedside is a problem I notice these days. Bedside manner, oh my! And like I say, it's not only here, abroad.
Yeah.
I had surgery, all kind of tubes and all kind of things coming up. I had to be airlifted. To the U.S. And this nurse put me in the sunroom. I was supposed to be there for 10 minutes. She left me there for an hour and 20 minutes. No bell to say, hey, I need help.
Wow.
I said, hey, back home in the Bahamas, maybe I'll put up with that, but not where I have to pay all this money over here. But people think that, okay, it's only here in the Bahamas, but
it's everywhere.
It's everywhere. It's changed. Nursing has changed.
But what do you think about the advancements and different options in healthcare now? 52 years into independence in the Bahamas.
The nurses, we have nurses who have their PhDs. Some of them went and did law. So we have nurses with law degrees. So then it was only, hey, nursing. And we had a matron there. Whew. She ruled with an iron hand. You could not do certain things I see happen now. We used to say, when she sent for you, we went on the red carpet. Nobody want to go on the red carpet to Hilda Bowen. She was the matron then.
What was her name?
Hilda Bowen.
I know who you mean.
She was the first black matron in the Bahamas. All the other ones were brought in from UK. And we have other nurses, but she was the first one. And she, I remember one time with the beauty queen and stuff, and they asked a couple of us to enter the beauty contest. And she said, because we're uniforms, see how we can go. So, you ain't going up there. No, you're not going up there.
No bathing suit for sure.
No bathing suit. And you call in, and you want to have nurses? No. But the advancement is here for whatever you want to do.
I say we just had our first kidney transplant last week. That's
and
really awesome.
And it was a Bahamian. And the thing is, I know the father of the boy is 2 doctors. The father, he said, when I go into, I'm a Seventh-day Adventist, and at the church, I go to Central Church, and he normally one of the first ones to come in, and he said, hey, how you doing, sis? I said, I'm good. He said, the one who did this church is my son. I said, well, congratulations. A Bahamian, when you had to bring in everything. I remember the first open heart surgery was done. Mary Kelly was working here then.
Wow, that's a long time ago.
So that was the first open heart surgery. So now we have the first kidney transplant. wow, we have local boys.
So to sum it up, even though we got some things we got to work on,
You have to work on.
we're still moving ahead.
We're still moving ahead. One thing that I would like to see in place, I did a commercial some years ago, NHI. And I said then, and I'm still saying it, if NHI don't come in fully for us, the mortician's going to make plenty money.
I agree with you with that, because
Plenty money.
it seems like with the insurance industry seems the older you get, the less they give you
Listen,
when you need it.
my son, they tell me, they always tease me, but my son do with me. I'm 81. I'm 82 this year. I am a 5-time cancer survivor. I did not take chemo, nor did I take radiation. I told them, Jesus is my doctor. Last year, in February, I had bronchitis, and they found out that I had cancer. They did X-rays, and they said they saw lesions, and so they said they wanted me to do a CT scan, and I say, hey, I have my ticket for New York and check you out when I come back. So when I came back and I had the CAT scan done, and they said I have a mass in my right lung, cancer in both lungs, and in my air passage. They wanted to do biopsy, surgery, chemo, and radiation. And I told them, no, thank you.
You've been doing alternative medicines, right?
Thank you. I'm diabetic and all of that. I changed my diet. I love oxtail.
Eat it less.
I eat less. I like lamb chop. That's But fish, I deal with the fish. We think with macaroni and cheese and potato salad.
You gotta
and
eat
all
that all the time.
No. My neighbor, she does a nice potato salad. I like the potato salad. I don't eat. If I'm eating rice, I cannot have the other stuff like that. But we don't have to do all this. If we say plant-based, the first thing was there was the plants. So we can alternate, but be careful of what you eat. I don't take the radiation or the chemo. I will not say on camera what I think of it, but that's your choice.
But whatever you're doing, it seems to be working, because you look great. And I thank you so much for being on this edition with us, and thank you for everything you did for me. Really appreciate it.
Still love you.
I love you more. Good. And happy Independence. But we're going to see you a little bit in the end.
Yeah.
Stay with us. We have one more guest, and then we'll have our little finale for our special Independence segment.
Family Island workboat fishermen have been given an opportunity to join fishing cooperatives, which provide credit and marketing facilities. A fleet of ferro cement fishing boats has been built to serve this burgeoning cooperative movement. A conservative estimate places the commercial value of the fish in our Bahamas at $10 million per year. And to make certain that this money is earned by and circulated amongst Bahamians, it is the government's policy to reserve this industry wholly for Bahamian citizens.
Well, welcome back. I'm going to embarrass my third guest a little bit because I remember him when he was a little boy in shorts. But anyway, boy, I'm sounding like old people. But anyway, Pastor Hervis Bain III is a fantastic young man who has a fantastic father, too, who designed our national flag and our coat of arms. Now, welcome to the show, Hervis, Pastor Hervis Bain, but you weren't even born when independence was here.
I mean, technically, well, thank you for having me. Thank you for allowing me to be reminded that I have to be, respectful to my elders. But I was born, I'm a 72 born baby.
You were just born.
I was just born. June 4th, 1972, I was born. However, leading up to independence, there was a lot going on. And so I was even in the creative aspect of, understanding what independence meant. The aspect of it for me came later. You know,
And when did you understand what your father had done? Because really, you know, it's the flag is one thing, but the flag and the coat of arms?
And the coat of arms.
That's really quite phenomenal.
So I mean, in his defense, technically there was a competition for the flag.
That's right.
Right?
That's
and
right.
there's this whole aspect of rendering like these various different drawings and all these other aspects. So his structural drawing was the one that won. Right? But there were other people who came through with the aspect of saying, oh, let's put the aquamarine in, let's do this. And then he brought in the technical understanding of why there is a point towards the
Your father was an architect as well, right?
he was an artist.
An artist, right?
Right? So I wouldn't call it ironic, but during the time when I think Canada was settling whether or not they should use the maple flag and rebranding themselves. He was in school in Halifax, you know, Nova Scotia Art of Design, Dalhousie. He was there with, I call them Uncle Tony and Uncle Frankie, but Franklin Wilson, Anthony Thompson. He was in that grouping there and discovering the aspect of, you know, if you're in art school and the country is going through a change of identity, a change of branding, taking on the maple leaf, and why would you use just a simple maple leaf on your flag, and understanding all of that, you were there during that time. And then now when it's time for you to speak to your country, here you are, able to talk with such distinction and such knowledge because you've been through the process. And all of that to me is God ordained. When you understand the whole process of branding a nation, bringing an identity. Right now we have Photoshop. Right now we have all the AI tools possible. You can chat GPT anything, right? But back in the day, 1973, 1972, 1971, when the premier of your country has called you and said, hey, to me, you're one of the leading artists in this country. Render us a identification to the world. Put us on the map and let the world know that when they see this symbol, when they see this coat of arms, this is the Bahamas.
But you know, I think what is amazing about our flag, the design is really fairly simple, yet complicated and powerful.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And it has that structural meaning to say that, listen, we as a people, you know, they play with the color black. It's political mischief in the beginning, you know. The black itself just shows power. The power of a people coming to one point of the triangle, facing a rising sun. Now, technically, you can say it's a S-U-N, right? But spiritually, we can now say it's a S-O-N, you know? And so in that aspect of it all, however we as a powerful people, regardless of our color, regardless of our creed, you know, we as a people joining together in one point can now face a rising sun. That means there's hope always. That means that there's a distinction of self always. And then now, you know, we always can look up and say, hey, there's a blue sky. Or we can look down and say, hey, we from some beautiful waters.
Some of the best.
You know, and so one of the things they asked our newest NBA star was, what do you think about the Bahamas? He said, man, I can't go no place where I can't see my feet in the water.
Really, Valdez Edgecombe and me, congratulations. That's a wonderful independence gift to us all, too.
Right.
But especially for his family. But it's true. Did you see his costume that had the flag?
Exactly. It had the flag. It had the Bahamian colors.
Yeah.
242 to the world. You know,
Yeah.
Buddy brings it. Everybody brings it. The aspect of the gold, the black, and the aquamarine because the aspect of it is not blue. You know, I think one of the biggest defense I could ever hear my father talk about is the color coordination of aquamarine. A Jew is a color that basically has to be documented to the world. So when we go to China, when we go to these other places and we say, okay, let me get like 100 flags, but the color is not right, I think it's a disservice to the Bahamas. and to those who have created the color.
Now we know that your father's no longer with us, but it was just a few years ago, I believe he passed. I remember doing the funeral actually, and but what do you think he would say now, knowing the impact? I mean, because of athletics, sports generally, people the world around know that's the Bahamas flag, and they understand what the Bahamas is, which is phenomenal for a country with people of our size. You know, the number of people that we have. How do you? Did he tell you what he felt about it before he passed on?
So we had that father-son conversation, more so heavily on the coat of arms, because the flag is the flag and the colors are the colors. But for him, he was always futuristic in his thinking.
Okay.
He was always progressive in his thought. And I used to ask him, like, how do you fit in? Because, like, there are times when I grew up in a bubble. I'm not hiding that. I grew up in a bubble because I say that because sitting around a table on a New Year's Day, you know, it was a tradition after John Canoe, you know, there was a South out still today at the Baines residence. So everybody, of all the friends. So I grew up sitting around the table with the movers and the shakers of the country, you know, those who can push the buttons and have their conversations, and they were free to have a conversation at the table. And their conversation was always geared towards how we can make it better. What is right, what is wrong, what is missing, what is confusing, so how we can fix this. And for him, my father, he was always a structural thinking individual who always had a plan. And so he would say to me, boy, you know, you have a plan? Like, what's your plan for this? What's your plan for that? You ask the question, what would he think? His thing was like, this is what he thought. This is what he expected.
He saw that coming.
He saw that coming. I mean, Julian, to sit in a room, to design a coat of arms of the Bahamas, without any imagery of your own, to say, we don't know anything about, anytime you talk about heraldry of a country, you're talking about a unicorn on the side of it, you're talking about a lion or a bear on the side of it. We can't identify with those things. To sit in a room with the door cracked and it's just you and God saying before there is a national fish, which is the blue marlin of the Bahamas, before there is a national bird, which is the flamingo of the Bahamas, use these individual items as icons to represent the identity of the Bahamas. And then now add on the other aspect. If you look at the coat of arms of the Bahamas, you're looking at land and sea. The theme throughout the whole coat of arms is land and sea. And so when you're looking at it from the fern and the conch shell up top, to the helmet in the middle, to the shield that represents the former coat of arms before, to the supporters, which are the blue marlin and the flamingo, to the motto. Vivian Moutry and Bo, please forgive me, I can't remember her first name. There was a competition for the motto. And
which is a strong motto too. The motto is
forward, up, and onward together. Yeah. You know, and so when you look at all of that, there was a competition for that. And Vivian Moutry out of Inagua and Mrs. Bo had very similar renderings. So they gave both of them.
They merged them?
Yeah, they gave both of them the acknowledgement that, you know, the motto came from them. So you're putting that all together with a creative aspect of it all and presenting it time after time. I mean, it wasn't just one time going towards the government or one time going towards the premier to say, hey, this is a rendering. It was tweak this, fix that, what about this, what about that? But I can truly say that I've heard my father out of his own lips say that the Bahamas government never asked him to explain the why of the coat of arms. They just said, oh, okay, this is good. Give me the breakdown. Debrief me on the why of the components of the coat of arms. And the aspect of those components were lodged in the identity of what he felt Bahamians should be, from the top all the way down. The motto itself teaches us about forward, upward, onward together. We're automatically born leaders, because if you don't know the way, how can you go the way? We're born knowing the way. Where are you going as a Bahamian? I am going forward, I'm going upward, I'm going onward, and come, let's do this together. You know, and so when you look at it from that perspective, the components were always, I think for me, the components of the coat of arms were always the identity of the Bahamas and a Bahamian. One of the downfalls I feel, my personal opinion, of independence is that we spent more time in trying to develop a country and not develop a country. And that means people. The people, to me.
But that wasn't how it started. It started out developing the people, didn't it?
Yeah, but like when it got down to my generation or my individuals, the individuals of my time, you know, all due respect to everybody, respectfully.
I know.
But when you get down, like, okay, that's how it started. But like, if that was the case, then to me, the baton was not passed correctly for there to be identity of self.
And I don't think you feel alone in that. You're alone in your feelings. So really what we need is a return to the principle.
Or a stance that says this is what it should be, a reset. Let's say it like that. Not to return. Like, you know, after COVID-19, not necessarily returning to anything, right? We have a reset to say, okay, hey, let's reset this idea of Bahamian, and what does that identify with?
Now, I mean, I'm saying a young Bahamian, but I realize what your age is now. But how do we go about doing that? Because obviously this, I'm assuming, is really your wish for the future of the Bahamas.
I think once we understand who we are and what we are, I could easily answer that by hearing my father just say, what's the plan? What is the plan for us in the next 50 years? Beyond just changing a government every 5 years, can there be a staple independent aspect of saying, this is Bahamian? Let's make this as a paper. Don't touch it. The Chinese that we talk about, they had a plan.
The plan is being implemented.
And the plan is being, because they can go in any country, even America, and tell them, like, listen, we're going to do this, this, and this, and this. They had a plan. We don't know our plan. We don't know what's the next move for the Bahamas as a whole. How can I now come together and say, you know what, I'm part of the plan, so I'm not doing this?
Because we can't see the plan.
We can't see the plan.
I mean, there's a written one somewhere, but it ain't implemented.
But where is it?
Yeah.
You know, let's not go from the aspect of this government, that government. You know, let's go from the aspect of a general aspect of
what are we working
towards?
What are
we working towards as a people? And so therefore the identity of self should be strong. I need to identify, I mean, if we come in from Columbus, 1492, I mean, beyond Columbus, it was the Arawaks and the Caribs.
And the Lucans who came back home the other day, I think, yeah.
And then we come down 300 plus year rule of colonialism. What is our identity? When we come out of that, the only thing that we could recognize is that, oh, okay, the queen, the queen, the queen. And in all humbleness, you know, now we can't even make the difference between that there's a Prince Charles that should be King Charles, right? And so, as I say that to say, the identity of what we look at changes. So it's time for us to identify what is uniquely who we are.
And since we are in the international spotlight so frequently, now is definitely the time to do that, right?
Exactly, and strongly so, because we have the respect of countries. I mean, Mia Mottley in Barbados can now speak about climate change and culture change, and people listen to her. We are the Bahamas. I think it was Sir Lyndon who was on a TV interview.
Oh yeah, I won't forget that one.
Okay, and they were
Neither-
questioning
ni-
him like he
ni-
was just a regular.
Neither will Jane Pauley. She'll tell you to this day.
Jane Pauley was coming at him, and Brian Reed was there.
I can't remember his last name.
Brian something.
Yeah.
Brian
Brian Ross, right.
Brian Ross was there.
Yeah, they set him up.
And they were trying to come at the leader of the country as if he was not a leader of a country. And so Lyndon's quote that we all remember is, man, your head must be cut off wrong, you know? We have to identify ourselves that no matter what platform that we're on, we should know who we are. And as a result of that, not question it, whether it be sports, whether we look at the Edgecombe young man, the Buddy Hields, the young lady in New York now, Jones.
Jonquil, yeah.
Right? If we say, okay, let's make basketball that focus of identifying the Bahamas, Jamaica does it with track and field. Or we can now say, like, okay, let sports be that very interest that we put ourselves into. Let it be tourism in the aspect of let's bring people to the country. We had the relays here, and the relays came here, and the athletes were on record by saying this is the best they ever ran because of the temperature of the Bahamas. The track was nice because, you know, China blessed us with that. All I'm saying is, if we identify a plan for us to say the Bahamas in the next 50 years will be dominating in basketball, dominating in baseball, dominating in track and field, let us be that, and let's us understand that, or let us now move towards career technical education. Let's move towards, the aspect of teaching individuals to be the best individuals as possible in the educational field. Mrs. LaRoto just finished saying that, listen, you had to identify yourself as a nurse, and as a result of that, not have a wayward aspect of discrediting that as an individual. The way you dress, the way you perform, you know, the way that you look, all of that was a plan of action to carry it out. So I just think that we need a plan, sir.
That's great. Pastor Hervis Bain III, really good to see you, and glad that you were able to come on the show.
Let the people know we neighbors, though.
We are lifelong neighbors, yeah. When we come back, we're going to say a special prayer for the nation on this 52nd Independence anniversary. Stay with us.
Bless you.
Welcome back. We're now going to have a special prayer for the nation. Bishop Simeon Hall.
Thank you, Heavenly Father, for in your providence you made us Bahamians. And thank you, God, for those who have contributed in our beginnings 52 years ago, and all who have since then made invaluable contributions. I pray for this country. I thank you for all its institutions, and that as we go forward to possess the land in the next 50 years, we will all make our contributions to this land. Thank you, God. Dispatch angels to keep us from all harm and danger. I pray a special benediction upon our Christian church. I thank you for them and the contributions they make. Bless us now in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Happy Independence, Bahamas!